Welcome back, everyone. On this Tuesday, two animal welfare laws in Massachusetts are taking effect this week, designed to protect animals and their owners. Western Mass News reporter Reagan Stoddard has details on what you may need to know if you plan on purchasing a kitten or puppy in the near future.
Tuesday marked a historic day for the animal welfare community, with two new laws taking effect. Currently, it's against the law for pet shops to sell puppies and kittens under the age of 8 weeks. However, this first law, an act relative to the humane protection of animals, will prohibit the sale of puppies or kittens under 8 weeks old across the board. Carol Holmquist, the advocacy director for Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, or MSPCA, says this law is not just to protect animals, but also for consumer protection too.
We know that people who purchase an animal on the roadside in a public park, if there is a problem with that animal, there's nothing for a consumer to do. There's no recourse. There's no way to make sure the animal is healthy.
The second law bans feline declawing, and experts compare declawing equivalent to amputating a person's fingertips up until the first knuckle. According to the MSPCA, cats that are declawed can develop certain behavioral changes. They tell us declawed cats are 7 times more likely to develop inappropriate litter box habits, and they are more than 4 times more likely to bite. Western Mass News also spoke with Dr. Susan Obell, the service director for Angel Animal Medical Center's General Medicine Department. She says some cat owners think declawing their cats is a way to fix behavior.
Scratching is just a part of being a cat. So it's not giving them an outlet for that behavior, or, if the cat needs more enrichment or, something else in the household, trying to take care of the problem at the very last place instead of, getting at the heart of the matter.
Massachusetts is only the 5th state to have a declaw law. These new laws expanding the discussion around the relationship between cats, dogs, and their owners.
I think there's a lot more time and energy and effort put into coaching our clients on, ways to live harmoniously with cats and dogs in their household.
Reporting in Springfield, Reagan Stoddard, Western Mass News.